Hey, what's up guys? Today, I'll show you a dystopian science fiction film, CARRE BLANC. Spoiler ahead, watch out and take care. The movie opens up showing a fable about two mama bears and the fate of their cubs. The first mama bear's skeleton was found, and a bear chased her cub, presumably eating it alive. On the other hand, the corpse of the second mama bear was found on the frozen sea, and her cub managed to escape. Before her death, the mama bear warns her cub that the world is full of monsters, and the cub will witness them in the end. The scene then moves to a decaying plain building, where its rusty speaker announces a motivation for the people to make a baby that night, depicting a dystopian society where the film is set. This society forces its people to live in a heartless caste system, in which everyone needs to climb the hierarchy to survive. Because of its heartlessness, the suicide rate becomes high, and the birth rate is dropping, making the population drop. This is why society's loudspeakers repeatedly motivate people to reproduce. Inside one of the plain industrial buildings, the processed foods dropping one after the other can be seen. The factory manager intently stares at the mother worker, who is sanitizing the factory at that time. The mother worker stares back when she becomes aware of him. Presumably, the mother worker is tired of the shitty factory, so she decides to sneak out of the factory and heads home instead. Later, the mother worker is walking home with his son, named Philippe, along the dark and decaying hallways of the apartment building. While they are carrying groceries to their home, Philippe looks concerned about his depressed mother. At their home, his mother angrily scolds Philippe for crying. She then says to Philippe not to cry like a little child. After his mother calls him a little child, he suddenly outbursts and throws their photo frame. He then says that he hates her and walks out of the room. The mother whispers to herself that Philippe's reaction is a good start. It seems like she is training him for the cruel world that awaits him outside. Later, the mother stares into nothingness, seemingly drowning in her own thoughts. She comes to check the sleeping Philippe. After staying for a while just looking at him, she then leaves his room. In the middle of the night, Philippe wakes up, finding his mother gone from her room. He looks at their terrace as if he already knows what already happened. He walks slowly to the terrace and looks down, only to find her mother already dead after jumping from their apartment. Knowing that the state orphanage will take him after his mother's death, he removes the leash of his dog to set it free so it can survive on its own. The dog's situation also reflects his situation, as he is now alone in the cruel world. Soon after, the state orphanage staff arrives in their home and takes him away. Along the way, he seems nervous, but he needs to follow the rule, leaving him no choice. Meanwhile, it is a usual day of work for the staff, who take care of his mother's dead body. They seal the body in the bag and put it in the freezer van with another dead body. The ground where the mother fell is now fully clean, free from any trace of the mother's depressing death. The following day, Philippe comes to his first class in the state orphanage. The staff ushers him into the dim room, where the teacher and the students are completely silent. After him, the staff ushers a peculiar girl orphan, named Marie, into the room. After their class, the student walks into the hallways of the orphanage. The announcer in the speaker says that at their age, they can now be inseminated artificially if they want to be pregnant. In the orphanage lounge, Philippe observes everything silently. He sees orphans violently beating each other. He also notices Marie, and she also notices him. Their faces show no emotion, as if they are never allowed to express it. Philippe cannot take the shitty situation anymore and finds a way out. He stands on a stool and ties his neck with a leash. After that, he kicks the stool in an attempt to hang himself to death. The leash slowly chokes him out, and he soon passes out. Fortunately, Marie arrives to save him from his impending death. After removing him from the leash, Marie revives him by beating the smelly shit out of him until he wakes up. Mary then wipes the blood out of the wound on his neck. The orphanage supervisor knows about his suicide attempt, so she puts him in the evaluation room with the other orphan, who also attempted suicide by cutting his wrist. The supervisor then says they can tell her about their problems, and she is there to help them. For their evaluation, she takes out a body bag and asks for two who want to get sealed inside. After a few moments of silence, the other orphan raises his hand, and the supervisor seals him inside the body bag. As the supervisor presses the buzzer, a man bringing two nightsticks walks into the room. The supervisor then declares that whoever accepts to be vulnerable inside the bag does not have a place in the orphanage. The man hands over a nightstick to Philippe, instructing him to beat up the other orphan. Philippe refuses to accept it, so the man beats him up. Without a choice, Philippe cutely smashes the other orphan with a nightstick. The man then beats him up again. This time, his anger comes out, and he uses all of his force to gruesomely beat the poor orphan in the bag. As he stops, the man hits him again, forcing him to beat the orphan endlessly. The supervisor then releases a smile of satisfaction as she watches Philippe violently beat the orphan. After that, the supervisor comforts Philippe from his guilt, saying it is only a game where someone wins and the other loses. So she advises him to just play the game and everything will go well for him. Meanwhile, he remembers his mother telling him that the world is full of monsters, but the supervisor conditions him not to believe his mother. So he starts to believe that the violence in the system is only a part of the game. After several years of indoctrination from the state orphanage, Philippe is now a grown-up who manages to climb the caste system after learning to play the game correctly. He works as an evaluator of prospective employees. Also, he's now married to Marie, who truly loves him. As an evaluator, he puts the prospects into a humiliating and futile test. In one of the tests, he puts the lady prospect in front of 100 telephones, where she must answer every single call from them. The lady prospect then tries her best to impress him, despite the impossibility of the task. On the next test, he makes the other prospect resist the electrocution coming from the objects. The other prospect resists the electrocution until he passes out and eventually dies. Philippe's associate comes in, and they casually talk about sports as if nothing happened to the other prospect. Soon after, the staff takes out the dead body and puts it in the freezer van. Philippe then heads home after a normal day at work. On his way out, the parking attendant releases a robotic smile for him. After a day of pretentious smiling, the parking attendant comes home in his depressing home. It appears that his wife is gone and now living along with his son. He hears his son playing with a gun during sleep time, so he comes to take away the gun from his son. Meanwhile, Philippe comes home and finds Marie's possession already placed in the box. Philippe puts back their photo on the shelf and sleeps on the couch, waiting for Marie to come home. Later, Marie comes home, appearing to be cold towards him. So Philippe begs her not to leave. The following day, Philippe goes to work, despite Marie's apparent longing for him. She appears hopeless about their relationship, so she removes their marriage photo on the shelf. Philippe drives to work, and the parking attendant welcomes him with a robotic smile. As he arrives in his office, he apologizes to the lady prospect for making her wait for him. In response, the prospect politely says it is all right, but he gives him a sarcastic remark, asking the prospect if it is all right for her to make people wait. The prospect then feels shame and becomes speechless in his response. After that, Philippe puts her on the electrocution test, and she manages to survive. Soon after, she recovers from the shock. He then subjects her to the next test, where he instructs her to press her back to the wall. After that, he tells her to walk backward. She then walks backward endlessly against the wall. The other prospects also experience the useless test. On the next humiliating test, he keeps smashing the prospects with a stick, and they must avoid it while staying on the white circle. Meanwhile, the lonely Marie comes to visit him in the office, but she sees him busy at work. She tries to call him, but he fails to notice her call. She then just leaves a voicemail where she expresses her resentment towards him. She says she cannot stand him anymore because he became a cold, heartless person. At the same time, she wants to have a child so they can become a happy family, but he does not want to have a child. After saying what she hates about him, she suddenly remembers the things she loves about him. So at the end of the voicemail, she says that she will still see him later at night. Night comes. They attend a birthday celebration of an old associate in the company. The old man is having a hard time blowing the candles because of his age, so the thuggish group on the side make fun of him. Marie then observes the thuggish group, and Philippe notices her looking at them. The thugs also take a look at them in return. Amid the celebration, a waiter accidentally spills wine to the thugs. This provokes the thugs, and they start beating the helpless waiter endlessly. This catches the attention of the other people, but they just watch the thugs gruesomely beat the waiter to death. Soon after, the staff arrives to put the dead waiter in the bag and places it in the freezer van. Meanwhile, Philippe and Marie decide to drive home. Along the way, Marie coldly tells him to stop the car. She then comes down and takes a breath of fresh air. Suddenly, the thug arrives on the scene and attempts to harm her. In response, Philippe immediately walks out of the car to defend his beloved wife. At this point, they are completely vulnerable to the violent thugs. Fortunately, the parking attendant arrives and brings out the toy laser gun of his child. The thugs immediately drive away in fear, thinking that it is a real gun. After that, Philippe and Marie have a conversation with the parking attendant in a coffee shop. In his 6 years of work, it is Philippe's first conversation with the attendant. Philippe then compliments the attendant's smile, since his paternal smile inspires confidence. Marie butts in and asks the attendant if he has a son. The attendant then denies he has a son. It seems that he is keeping his son a secret. In response, Marie also says that she also does not have a child, since Philippe subconsciously prevents them from having a child. She then reveals that the caste system conditions Philippe to avoid weakness. So he prevents them from having a child, since a young child is vulnerable to the cruel world they live in. Afraid to confront the reality of human vulnerability, Philippe stays to play the game of the caste system where he always wins. Soon after, they bid goodbye to the attendant, and Philippe instructs the attendant not to tell anyone about the incident that night. After that, Philippe comes to confront Marie on the park bench. He says that they do not have a choice but to play the game to get higher, or else they will end up like the waiter who died earlier. He then tells her that they have each other, but she replies that it is not enough. So he says he can leave anytime if she thinks he's not enough for her. The following day, Philippe comes to work and greets the attendant. However, the attendant remains robotic and refuses to have a personal conversation with him, since it is part of the rules. Philippe then leaves in disappointment and walks to his office. The thugs visit him in the office and offer his wife a flower as a sign of apology. Philippe then apologizes to them in return. After they leave, Philippe throws the flower into the trash can. During lunchtime, Philippe comes up with a plan for the thug. Meanwhile, Marie attempts to have a conversation with the attendant, but the system instructs the attendant not to answer her. He then closes the door and ignores her. Philippe calls the thugs to his office, telling them that the boss wants to evaluate them. On the evaluation, Philippe instructs them whoever empties the bottle will win and will prove their loyalty to the company. They then start to fight over the bottle, and the tall guy immediately uses violence against his friends to take it. Philippe then reprimands the tall guy for using violence, since it turns out that they can altogether drink over the bottle using the straw. After that, Philippe provokes the other thugs into beating the tall guy to death in the parking lot. In the end, Philippe wins against the violent thugs, but he soon reflects on his action. He remembers his mother, who tells him the story of the mama bear before her death. Apparently, the mama bear chooses to abandon her weak cub, so the cub will grow stronger in the land of bears. The society they lived in reflects the land of bears, which is a cold place where the weak get eaten by the stronger. Philippe then realizes that his mother abandoned him, so he will become stronger, and no one will dare to go against him. In this way, he will survive the cold and heartless caste system. That night, Marie seems out of herself while driving her car, so she accidentally hits a man, but she continues to drive as if nothing happened. The following day, someone is knocking on their apartment to avenge the death of a man last night. Learning that the men would harm her, Marie kisses Philippe and jumps out of the window. Philippe then quickly follows her as he also jumps. Fortunately, there is a net on the ground that prevents people from committing suicide. Philippe crawls towards Marie, who gets injured from the impact. He then revives her by punching her face, which immediately wakes her up. The men chase them on the ground, so Philippe smashes the man's face with a mallet, making the other man run away in fear. After that, Philippe and Marie drive away from their apartment. Because of her, Philippe figures out that he has become a monster in a world full of monsters. He then declares that Marie is the only one who prevents him from being a total monster, and as long as she is there, he will not be afraid and will never be alone nor cold in the land of bears. In the end, the cub of the second mama bear manages to survive, and now becomes a big bear who wanders through the land of bears. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.